Hello, welcome back to Luke Talks Palace, where today we have a huge video to bring you around John Textor, Woody Johnson, our Europa League hopes, and what happens to Crystal Palace long term. As always, if you are new around here, do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Let me know your thoughts on Textor, Johnson, and this whole kind of mess going on. This video will chat about the main news that everyone knows. However, I have done a lot of research and will mainly be chatting about my thoughts and my views on the situation, whilst giving you some insight and analysis on Woody Johnson and why John Textor actually sold his shares at Crystal Palace. I will be looking at my notes for this one, but that's because I have really researched it and I don't want to get anything wrong in this video. So yeah, let me know what you think. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. So it was officially confirmed by Crystal Palace that Robert Wood Johnson, aka Woody Johnson, has signed a legally binding contract to purchase Eagle Football's holding in the club. They also said, whilst the completion is pending approval from the Premier League and the Women's Super League, we do not envisage any issues and look forward to welcoming Woody as a partner and a director of the club. So there it is then. The Textor reign as one of our shareholders is over. He had the least say at the club, may have got us kicked out of Europe before we even get there. I'll also provide my thoughts on that in the video and why I believe we will be fine. And he has helped other Premier League rivals like Forest when it comes to signing players and also helping them balance the books over the last transfer window or two. There were some positives. Textor's investment in the 2021 transfer window was massively crucial. Without it, we would have easily gone down, or we could have easily gone down. It was Vieira's first summer. It was big. We had 12 players who we lost that summer. We needed big investment, and Textor did give it to us. But for me, his negatives and his ego massively outweigh the positives. He spoke out too much, was causing a rift between the owners and separating the fan base as well with some of the stuff he was saying to the media or leaking to the media. And he clearly wants to have the sole power and wants everything to go his way. This was just never ever going to work at Palace. So, the first question I will answer straight away. Does Textor selling his shares mean we are cleared for Europa League and that he is the hero? The media and lots of journalists say it does, but the Palace insiders and all the research I've done says it makes absolutely zero difference to whether we're in the Europa League or not. For me, all the journalism saying that Textor selling his shares means we get Europa League is really lazy journalism. The whole issue with Textor, UEFA, Crystal Palace, and Lyon is the fact that we all know Textor owns Lyon and has shares in Crystal Palace, and two clubs owned by the same person cannot play in the same European competition. However, Crystal Palace, from the start, let me repeat, from the start of this mess, have felt confident they have not broken any rules, even with Textor at the club. Now, that is massively crucial. All this media saying that we were worried about Textor being involved in the club and ruin our Europa League hopes in terms of being an owner is just complete rubbish. Yes, Textor has a big percentage of shares in the club, or he did, around 40%. However, this doesn't matter in UEFA ruling. It is all about the amount of control he has. And Textor only has 25% of the voting rights. He only has quarter of the control at this club. And this is below the amount that UEFA allow. And this is why Palace have always felt confident about staying in Europe. I think the key thing to note as well is UEFA are not trying to kick us out of Europe. They are trying to openly work with us, and that is so important. They don't want the FA Cup winners who have had this dream story to be kicked out of Europe. They don't. They just need to make sure that there is an owner who isn't owning two clubs in this competition, because that would ruin the integrity of the competition. And as we all know, all our Palace fans know, we have not broken the rules because Textor does not have a majority control of this club. So many opposition fans, media, etc., all saying because he's an owner, that means we can't be in Europe, we've broken the rules. I just wish some of these people actually looked into it and read and understood why we should be fine. And I will say we should be fine because obviously I'm not someone in the know. I'm not someone who has the ins and outs of this. I'm forming an opinion based on my research. Basically, Textor's sale does not matter from the looks of things when it comes to Europa League, as it was completed after the 1st of March. This is what massively confused me about the media. They are just not looking at this rule in UEFA. Basically, the UEFA rules literally say this. Now I'm saying it quote for quote, word for word. To ensure the integrity of the UEFA club competitions, the club must be able to prove that as of 1st of March 2025, the multi-club criteria are met. So Textor selling the club in June is after this deadline. Therefore, it makes no sense. Yes, UEFA may give us a bit of leeway because of this situation, but it's not going to be the sole reason as to why we stay in this competition. The main reason we will stay in this competition, Europa League, is because our majority owner is Steve Parish. He is not someone who owns any other clubs. That's literally the importance of this. Let's dive into the real reason why I believe Textor sold his shares as soon as possible. And if you don't know this, or if you have heard of this, it's crazy. Basically, as I've said, John Textor is a sole owner of Lyon. For those of you who do not know, Lyon faced potential relegation, forced relegation, and a transfer ban due to significant financial mismanagement by those in charge of the club, Mr. John Textor himself. The National Directorate of Management Control, which I will now be calling DNCG for the rest of this video, provisionally relegated Lyon from Ligue 1 and banned them from signing players in the January transfer window just gone. By just gone, obviously, 2025. This is because Lyon's debts exceeded 500 million euros, and the DNCG mandated a salary cap and oversight of player wages. Textor obviously does not want one of his main clubs in his Eagle football group, the one he actually solely owns alongside Botafogo, to get this relegation. You know, this is huge for him. This is pivotal for him. He cannot have a huge giant like Lyon take control of them and then see them go through a forced relegation, because that will just show that he's a really, really bad owner. And obviously, the criticism he will get from Lyon fans, etc., will see him not be able to return. So, Textor needs to prove that he is able to have investment and invest some money into Lyon. And guess what? The next meeting with the DNCG and Lyon, aka John Textor, for all of this to try and sort out whether Lyon face this financial relegation or face further fines, etc., is this week. In fact, it is apparently on the 24th of June, which is the day I'm recording this video. At this meeting, Textor needs to prove that he is able to put a huge cash injection into Lyon, around 150 million, and the money needs to be invested into the club one way or another by the end of June. Textor has to show the DNCG exactly where these funds are coming from, the proof of these funds, and how they will be injected, and that they will be injected by the end of June at this meeting. Basically, if you're still with me, Textor selling his shares at Palace saves Lyon from a forced relegation. And do you know what's even funnier? If Lyon had been relegated from Ligue 1, it would have meant Palace's Europa League place would have been 1,000% confirmed, as Lyon wouldn't have been in the Europa League anymore. You literally couldn't make it up. Now, I will caveat this all by saying I've researched it, and I've also asked journalists about this. I've asked people in the know. Some of you may know Carl on Instagram. He used to be on Twitter, Calcio Carl. So credit definitely goes to them for helping me with this. You know, I just wanted to provide you with what I'm seeing and these facts, which is crazy. In fact, Ed Malin, who some of you may know, he's a very, very respectable and an amazing journalist. He's also a Palace fan. He tweeted, I think this sale, so Textor's sale to Woody Johnson, helps Textor and his issues at Lyon more than it helps Palace with UEFA. And then he put in brackets, not sure it has any effect at all on that front. And then he went on to say, but at least that chapter with Textor is over. How hilarious is that whole situation? You know, ridiculous. Textor's looking like the hero right now in the eyes of the media for Crystal Palace. He actually was the furthest away from that. You know, it's great to get him out of the club, in my opinion. He has done some good, I know, and it just doesn't work at this club what he's trying to do. But, you know, I really just don't want to see him painted as the hero if Palace get the Europa League, because that would have been all the groundwork that Palace have been doing this season, not the man, the owner, the minority owner of this club, you know? As I've said before, I'm no ITK. This is just an opinion, but I believe that Palace will be getting into the Europa League and it should be confirmed by the end of June. That is just an opinion based on everything I've looked into. I have no reason to believe why would be kicked out. But do you know how funny it would be if the man who got us kicked out of Europe isn't even at the club anymore? Ridiculous. Do let me know your thoughts on all that. Do let me know if you agree, disagree, etc. Be really interested to see what you think. And let me know what you think of Textor. Anyways, let's move on to the new man at Selhurst Park, Woody Johnson. So, who is Woody Johnson, and is him taking over Textor's shares a good thing? Personally, I'm torn. To start things off, I will say I never ever want Woody Johnson to have any majority power at Crystal Palace. I never want him to take over Steve Parish's role at Crystal Palace, but I'm confident Steve Parish would never ever allow that to happen. Talk about the man and the money. Media companies like Forbes believe Johnson's worth around $3 to $4 billion. Basically, he's really, really rich, and he's able to invest a fair amount of money into Crystal Palace should he choose to do so. He is also the longtime owner of the NFL's New York Jets, something I'll get into later. Woody also served as a US ambassador to the UK from 2017 to 2021. And the stake he's got in Crystal Palace is a roughly 43 to 45%. But as we know, that does not mean he's the majority owner. He does not have any control. He has 25% control of the club in terms of his opinion, what he can do. So basically, he has no control. So let's dive into why I'm slightly worried about him. Woody Johnson has been embroiled in a number of controversies over the years. He faced a State Department Inspector General probe after allegations surfaced that he made inappropriate or insensitive comments regarding race and gender, Black History Month, and women's roles, which really prompted concerns over a hostile work environment. And let's talk about how he's done at the New York Jets. In one word, rubbish. He's consistently been criticised for heavy handed meddling in football decisions, famously vetoing a trade based on Madden's NFL video game. Allegedly, he was given a rating of a player from Madden by his teenage sons and even allowed them into meetings and celebrations. He based a decision assigning on a Madden rating. Crazy. His leadership at this NFL team has faced a lot of criticisms from New York Jets players themselves. In the 2025 NFLPA report card, he earned an F grade among all NFL owners, and this was cited for fostering a culture of fear, low investment in facilities, and poor team culture. The cumulative picture painted by employees, league officials, and media reports is that of an owner who is impulsive, family centric, and politically influenced. What I will say is Woody Johnson has basically rubbished them claims of inappropriate comments, and he's also rubbished the claims of a poor culture, a poor working facility, a poor setup at the New York Jets. I will say that. So that's why I'm slightly worried about him. However, if he is a silent investor, that is completely fine. If he has no plans to take over at Crystal Palace, that is completely fine. For me, and I will be honest, as football fans, we should be honest. We should be able to have our opinion and still love our club. We can't control the people who are in charge or who own the club or who have these shares in the club. We have no say in that. So we should be allowed an opinion. For me, I'm slightly worried of him as a person. I am. I'm slightly worried about him as a sports owner. I am. So as I said, a silent investment would be lovely from him. He is also 78, so I really don't expect him to, take sole control of this club. Right, that has been all for today's video. As I said to you before, this has all been from my own research, my own analysis. So look, if you think there's something that needs correcting in this, let me know. But if I'm looking at this, this is what I think's happened. This is how it looks like it's been laid out. And I just wanted to bring you guys that so then you could form your own opinions around this whole Textor, Johnson, and Europa League saga. Let me know if you enjoyed this type of video. I would say it's a little bit more serious, but yeah, it was just something I've wanted to bring you a bit more, hardcore research and journalism to this channel. I'm not just a fan reactor, talking about transfer news as well. I just wanted to bring you something a little bit different because, I want this channel to be stood out there and, be able to voice opinions and be able to voice the opinions of the Crystal Palace community. So as I said, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.